So, you're all wondering, this guy here has a scarf around his neck. What is he doing? That's weird. It's 40 degrees outside. I'm Canadian. But that's not the reason. It's because this scarf is very nice, is dear to me because it was, I'm a bit hot here. It was purchased with the help of artificial intelligence. Yes, and it was purchased by me last summer. I was on holiday in Peru. It was very nice. I was on a little island where they have a very old tradition. It's a bit special, where the fathers knit and they make hats and things like this. And even the little kids, when they're 6 years old, they will have to start knitting. And to be able to marry their loved ones, the in-law family will judge the quality of the knitting of the male to see if they are worthy of the lady. But this guy was having a couple of scarves on the floor, trying to sell them to tourists like me. And I wanted one that's made from llama, but the problem is I don't speak a single word of Spanish. And he spoke Spanish and Quechua, and I thought like, well, let's take technology, so let me just get my gear here. So I took my Google and I just did something very simple. I gave him instruction in English to speak on the phone and it will translate. I just did this, it will be in Spanish. Let's go here. Just speak to the phone and it will translate to me.
Solo habla al teléfono y se traducirá a mí.
And so this was in Spanish, and the guy was looking at me. And he took my phone and he started speaking. And we started having a conversation, and it was quite natural. And I was starting to discuss the price, but halfway he literally stopped the negotiation. And he got his own phone, and he gave it to me in his hand. He unlocked it, and he said, like, show me. And unfortunately, it was Android phone, so I actually picked up his phone, found Google Translate, just made the Spanish and English, and I showed him pushed here. And he was so excited. He was just like he had discovered something that he already had. And this is, I'm sorry, but Google is artificial intelligence driven. And by that moment, I finished by buying my little scarf. But I felt very happy because when I left, it left me with the feeling that I was not just, I'm sorry, I'm just going to put this, I'm creating a feedback loop. I'm not just a tourist that bought something and left. I actually left him with a gift. I don't have much credit for that gift, but he can now sell more in any languages that he wants using his phone in this little village with his kid on the side while he is knitting. So that's how I find that intelligence, artificial intelligence, and those technologies are there for humans. So before I go into my presentation, let me do another magic trick. Ik bied mijn excuses aan dat ik geen Arabisch kan spreken.
أعتذر عن عدم تمكني من التحدث باللغة العربية.
That was Dutch that I spoke right now, the most melodious language in the universe. Artificial intelligence, how does that work? Let's look at the little film here. They're going to play hide and seek. And this is two artificial intelligence little robots. There is no human intervention. They're learning. At the moment, they're very stupid. The red one is trying to catch the blue. And the blue is walking a bit randomly. It's very, very basic. But each time something happens, it learns. So about 4 million games later, something starts to happen on the blue side. They lock the door. Yeah, try to get in. So let's make it a bit harder. 2 doors, but they block the 2 doors. Now the red AI needs to learn as well. He wants to catch those little guys. So what is he going to do? Or they do? There's something here. Oh, yay! I got you. So the red AI has learned, and this can go on and on and on. The moment where they found the way to jump was about at 10 million games played. And this is very organic. It's like biology. You learn by each other, by the reflection. But this also, think about a context of warehouse management and supply chain. This kind of learning by itself is very, very powerful. Now, the artificial intelligence works this way. This is one of the ways it can work, actually. You just let the machine learn by themselves with just an instruction, hide and seek, and that's it. The rest is done by the machine, and it finds creative solution to do this. Now, I talked about millions. The AI was able to play 4 million games per hour. Yes? So it's not that it takes 3 months. It took this was maybe 2 or 3 hours to actually evolve the AI to this. So today, let's talk about, in context of procurement, how do you see those innovations inside your companies? And not just waiting for us to actually do them, and you can be a little bit lazy and wait that we develop the things as a technology provider, but how could you try to see this yourself? 100 years ago, this is in England, it was the Welland Valley. They wanted to have a train to cross this when the train started existing. And the trouble is if you make the railway track follow the valley, it takes about 7 minutes to cross this valley. And the British, with their voice, found it absolutely unacceptable. So this was unacceptable to them because they thought, like, it needs to go faster. They built the biggest arch bridge in the world, and it had an act of parliament to secure the funding for this. And they did all this to save 6 minutes. Is it 6 or 7? 6 minutes. Sorry, I should have gone back. 6 minutes. Only 6 minutes, millions of investment, act of parliament, 100 years ago. And when you think about this, yeah, that's a bit crazy. Well, there is one valley, but just a bit further, there is another one, and there is another one, and there is another one. So if you add the 2 minutes, the 3 minutes, the 6 minutes that you add, basically you're saving an hour. And this is why they decided that even for such a short benefit, it was worth building such an incredible construction. Artificial intelligence does this job. It's the bridge. It doesn't replace the railway. It doesn't replace the people. It does the gap in between. And if you think about it this way, if you're on a holiday like me in Peru and you're just singing down the hills and be happy, that's fun. You're on holiday, it's beautiful, and you don't have any pressure. But if this is your road from A to B every single day, or if this is your process in procurement, where you have to do Excel spreadsheet here and you have to do this there, it becomes very painful. And those little parts of the process is where you want to try to innovate. Now, a couple of companies did this, and they made a lot of money. So here's a recipe to make $1 billion, or maybe for some of you, your second $1 billion. If you take, and I'm just going to give you the example, Netflix. If you take a desire, a human desire, and you look at what are the steps to get from I have a desire and I've got my desire fulfilled. What are the steps to get there? Think of Netflix. The desire is entertain me. Yes? I'm bored, or I entertain me. That's the desire of a human. And if you sit in front of the television without Netflix, you have to, zap or this. So the steps is to find something to entertain me. And what did Netflix do that made them so amazing? They used AI and technology to suggest to you, each one of you as an individual, what is most likely what you will like. I think you are more of a Game of Thrones person or something like that. And it presents to you things that are personalized. And so I'm there, I'm sitting, and I can, oh yeah, that fits. It made my link to my desire much faster. So it removed the step of choice, and they became extremely rich via this. Same thing with Uber. Uber, also very simple. Everybody will probably get it. It removed the stress of payment. you can send your children to school with an Uber and they don't need to carry cash. They remove that step. They remove also a lot of them. The stress of not knowing the road, the stress of going to a foreign country, not speaking the language, and having to take a taxi. There is many, many steps in the desire, in this case, of drive me to the other side of the city. Yes? And the steps to go there, Uber took many, many with technology. Last one is one that I like a lot, Amazon.com, and I'm thinking more about the warehouse and the once you've purchased something. And the human desire is a very, very, very old one, and it comes from the little 3-year-old kid. Some of you probably have them or had them, and the kid goes, "I want it now, now." You want it now, no patience. And Amazon saw business model. They want it now. So they use technology to, and it's a lot of technology to get the warehouse completely intelligent and to be able to find as quickly as possible the best way to deliver this. And in some regions of the world, they can do this in just 1 hour or 2 hours. They will deliver what you've done. The "I want it now" has been solved. That's another human desire. They took out a step, the step of waiting. So with those stories, how many steps do you have in your processes? And what does that mean? 44% of, that's been analyzed, of the spend in employee or workforce at the moment across the world is in contingent labor or external workforce. You don't employ them. You use services or different ways to get the work done, but not by having employees. Now, those processes of yours, can they be done by someone who comes in and gets out? Another interesting fact, in the last 100 years, humans have augmented their IQ by 30 points. It's a lot. So someone who was an average IQ, intelligent quotient, let's say intelligence, it's discussable, but let's say an average person in 1900 is considered today slightly deficient. And there are very big question marks on how this happened, and it continues to grow. They believe that it's exposure to information that has created this, but nevertheless, the trend has augmented. So that means that everybody that you employ are a little bit smarter than they used to be, and they will continue being smarter. So again, how many steps do you have in your processes using workforce that is flexible and agile and that is getting more and more qualified and can do more with their own brain? So maybe we need to look at this guy. He's your employee, Ahmad. Yes? And he's a young talent. He has business schools. He speaks 3 languages. And he's a little bit creative. And he's very eager to get into his job. And you've hired him in procurement. And you're going to have to score Excel spreadsheets, RFP on Excel spreadsheets on the Monday. And on the Wednesday, you're going to receive a list from HR of all the new employees. And you have to order them all what they need for their job, repetitively. And on the Friday, well, Friday is mismatch day, you're going to receive the invoices from accounts payable, and you're going to have to reconcile them and figure out who ordered this. Oh, this guy is so thrilled about his job. He studied for 5 years to do mismatched invoices. I'm not sure that this is the best way to use his brain. Those are steps in his process to deliver you procurement excellence. So if you are by any chance able to use those technologies for those parts of the process, you could have a suggestion of best answer. Use AI to tell you, recommend this is probably the best offer. You could use AI to simply link with HR and figure out by pattern. It's quite easy, actually. Like a new employee for this kind of work will need this list of material and automate this. You don't even need AI for this. It's quite simple. Or you can, at the end, use, my 2 little guys that were learning with artificial, machine learning. Machine learning for mismatch invoice. Believe me, there is someone that keeps not making their POs. And you can identify that person and have this automated. So what happens is this guy is now stimulated. He can working on quality in the RFP, and he can check, instead of checking an invoice, verifying that you got your discounts. He gets more value to you as your company and also as himself in his career. About 60 years ago, no, it's not 60, about 40, 50 years ago, this guy, I like this guy very much, Doug Engelbart, and sadly not so many people know him. I think he should be more known than Steve Jobs, but he invented something like this. Has anybody got a clue what that is? It has a wire, you can take it in your hand and move it. It's the first mouse. Yeah, exactly. It's the first mouse. 1958, it's that old. And when he invented this, he changed the world, because you used to type to the computer, you needed to code and talk to the computer. And from that point on, you could use your eyes and interact. You could communicate with the computer. That literally changed the way we use computers. And if you are on your iPad or on your phone, your finger has become the mouse, but it's pretty much the same idea of what he did. And now, at that time, maybe 10 years later, did everybody start to say, mouse are going to take over my job. The mouse is going to replace the human. The mouse is going to do the work. I don't think so, right? So artificial intelligence at the moment, if we push ourselves in the future, they might actually look at us and having this, they really thought that it would replace humans. If you don't have any humans, then the machine makes no point. The human must be centric to everything. And artificial intelligence, machine learning, and those things is a tool. It needs a frame. And you're going to see why in a second. If I type in Google, artificial intelligence will take away opportunity, replace human, Will Smith. Yeah? Artificial intelligence, Will Smith. Okay, it's very clever. If there is any science fiction fans in the room, maybe it's not that stupid. This film, I, Robot, where Will Smith played, was about artificial intelligence. So it's not completely stupid, but nevertheless, it's weird. Our AI, this is an AI-driven algorithm, needs to have a human oversight, because computers are very, very bad at understanding intent. What did you intend to search? What did you want to achieve? And so there is lots of limitations. Google needed 20,000 images of cats to start recognizing that it might be a cat. And sometimes it put a little dog in there. It's still 20,000 images. While a human baby will need to see 2 cats. And from that point, he will recognize a lion as the same kind of thing, but in bigger. 2 images and a human baby, right? So we still have an edge. We're still a little bit better. Yes, there's not too much doubt about this. So in here, we need to think about, let the AI do the boring tasks, and let the human do the thinking. And this is when I say that the computer, the mouse is communicating with the computer, is bringing my communication. AI is trying to tackle the repetitive boring, where you're using humans as repeaters instead of using them for their brain power and creativity. So let's go into a little bit more real stuff. So what we've done about this is an example. So this guy works in the mining area, and he's a mechanical engineer, and he needs to go into those big, I don't even know what that's called, but that thing, right? He climbs on it and gets his hand greasy, finds a part that is broken, and he needs to have it, well, he will fix it, but he needs the part. And the problem is the company that asked SAP to work on this said most of his time is passed taking the part and going down to his office, sitting down, reading manuals, and trying to find what's the part number and what is it. And once he's got that part, picking up the phone and phoning his contacts and his suppliers, do you have that part? And that was a big problem, the mechanical engineers doing this. And you know, in the mining, well, in this region it's petrol, but you're digging gold out of the ground. So you don't really care how much it costs to do the digging. You just want it to keep digging as quickly as possible. So the machine needs to run fast all the time. So how to get that done? They ask SAP to help. Very simple solution. We're going to give him a phone and take a picture of the part. And then you might have a little Will Smith effect here, so 96% sure, 4% Will Smith, right? We're not completely sure. But then the mechanical engineer can look at the part and validate that it's exactly this. We've helped him. I think the slide is a little bit too marketing-wise. I think the real case is around 60 to 70% hit rate. But even at that level, it is so impactful that it made his life faster, better, and as a whole, the company kept having more production. Now, this is not easy. It's not an hour of coding and it's done. The 20,000 cat images of Google, the same story needs to happen here. We had to work with the client to scan the manuals, scan the images, bring them online, codify them. There was investment to be done in terms of time. It was not technology. It was just bringing analog world to digital world. But once it's done, it's magical. And this is a very good case of you're not purchasing a solution, you're not buying something done, you're looking at your process and you're finding a road bump and you're trying to make it faster with AI. And so when you go to procurement, the ultimate desire in procurement, this is how I typically explain when someone says what is end-to-end purchase to order, I start with the end. So the dream of a CPO and a CFO is an invoice that's paid because there's a PO with a receipt based on a price from the catalogs with discounts from contracts negotiated with many suppliers. Some of them that you might have searched and found because you didn't know about them, and then you qualified them, all based on wonderful analytics that told you what you should do. Yes? So this is end-to-end procurement in 20 seconds. But if you look at this on our side, on the side of the technology provider, it's a road with road bumps. And so we are actually intensively trying to throw artificial intelligence and automations and things, and this is not a roadmap slide. We have a roadmap on this. This is ideas that I'm putting on the screen here. But to try to make that road better, faster, more interesting, and more stimulating for the end users. Yes? But that's, again, you standing there and me saying we're going to do all the work. So I'd like to try to flip this around and try to make you interested in about what you could do yourself and bring you into a very dark space. Now, everybody is going to be scared about the word that I'm going to put here. It's called API. Yes? Have you heard about that word that nobody dares to? I think it's application programming interface, and I'm not even sure about that. But it even scared me, API. So here's an easy way to think about this. An API is like a USB hub. So if this was plugged into Ariba, each one of the holes is a piece. Workflow, approval workflow. The principle of approval workflow is one of the USB. And then the next one might be tax validation with government requirements. Just tax validation, the principle of checking if the tax level is good. Maybe the last one is in Fieldglass about timesheet helping with a chatbot. Yeah? So those are pieces of the system that are available to any of you as client to develop and do magic with them in another way. And with this, if you look at it this way, you can take those ingredients that are called APIs. There's more than 100, but you can also use the APIs of anything in the world, maybe your system of HR, your ERP, maybe Google, universities, economic index. All of those, anything that has technology at the moment, is developing those USB holes to use them and be creative with them. And so you take those ingredients, you add tools, and this is what we did. We took, let's say, we started with an image or a tool to scan the part in this. We analyzed from there the potential the potential identification of the part, and then the API started looking if we had part availability somewhere. But you use the ingredients, you use the tools, and then from there, you serve this out back to the user. And serving it, it's like a plate. If I take rice and I boil it, I'm not going to give it into my hand. I need to give it into a plate. So the plate is, yes, last year I was here with the Google Home. The Google Home was the delivery. I'm delivering a workflow. Google, approve my PO, of this PO. And so I'm using this to do this. But it could be just a web browser, but it could be an object. You want to have a vending machine for security hats and gloves and goggles for your employees. It's procurement. They're just going to badge and get it out. This is an API to producing a request or maybe a consumption inside a machine. So this is how you can think about your roadblocks or your road problems of the daily life of your employees and figure out, is there some of those ingredients and tools that could make that easier? Because at the end of the day, you're all very unique in the way you do your own processes. There is a lot of things that are common, but there are always specificities, and this is how you can address them to get into the future. So coming back to where I started in the Welland Valley, once again, AI is not there to take over. In this case, they use an API that was blocks of bricks, I think, to actually build a bridge where they saved 6 minutes. And it didn't replace the human, it helped the human. And this is why technology has to be human-centric. This is how we design it in SAP. We always make sure that the human remains at the middle of it. It is not just computers for computers. So with a little piece of ingredients, API in this, you can start cooking and make magic and turn this into a blue sky where it's perfectly stimulating for everybody. And saying back that it's made for humans, here are Mona Lisa from Da Vinci, David from Michelangelo, and from Holland, where I live, the girl with the pearl hearing, that were augmented with AI to give them human-like things. A computer doesn't look at this and find this interesting, only a human will. And you're hearing music right now, if anybody here is into classical music, the Unfinished Symphony of Schubert, you're hearing the end. It's finished by Huwaii. So I thank you very much, and I wish you a nice day.